I'm Dr. Colleen Golja. I'm a research fellow at Imperial College London. Well, that's quite cool. I guess I don't think of myself as a space scientist, but I am nearing space with my research. But I always was quite interested in climate change and quite worried about climate change, and I think that's what drew me to studying climate science. I have a degree in chemical engineering, so I kind of, when I was younger, was more focused on potentially like energy and fuel sources, and then pivoted to look actually more at the impacts of climate change. I work mostly on stratospheric processes, so what's going on high above us in the region where the ozone layer does exist. So the ozone layer sits in the stratosphere. We live in the troposphere, which is the more turbulent region, and then above that there's this kind of stratified layer. And in that layer, and the reason it is stratified is because of ozone that exists there. And ozone basically protects everything on Earth from these high energy particles that are coming from the sun. So one of the main reasons that life can exist on Earth is because we have this ozone, which is incredible, really, when you think about it. My understanding is that in kind of the 80s, we started to realize, by we, I mean the scientific community, realized that there was kind of an ozone hole that was forming, especially during kind of the northern hemisphere springtime. And there's a bunch of kind of dynamical processes, but mostly chemical processes that were contributing to this. And ultimately, the main source of kind of what we call ozone depletion was coming from these chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, which are like an industrial produced chemical that people thought was really inert, and they thought, oh, that's great, it won't cause any problems. But really what happened was it kind of was so inert that it floated, and it lasted long enough, you know, at this level of the atmosphere, it floated all the way to the stratosphere, where then the high energy particles from the sun break them down and make them quite chemically active. The kind of famous Montreal Protocol was the international framework to regulate these chemicals to make sure that this ozone hole was stopped and reduced through time. And I would say it's probably one of the more successful environmental international policies ever to be implemented and adhered to. So within kind of what I'm looking at, which is kind of stratospheric dynamics, there's a lot of satellite measurements that go into understanding what's actually happening. So remote sensing techniques of like stratospheric ozone, water, and also like wind data, temperature data, that's all coming from various different sources, but a lot of them are satellite sources. The working group at ISSI is a group of kind of people who do climate modeling, which I follow more on that side, and people who are actually like taking the observations and making the products that we use, and communication between those two groups it's fun to have, and it's maybe not so common. So this is my second time at ISSI. I also attended the last working group for the project that I'm on, which was in the springtime, and I feel like I'm seeing more of Bern this time around, just because the weather is a little bit warmer. My favorite thing in Bern right now is the river. It is very warm out, and the river is beautiful, and you can swim in it and you can float down it, and it's probably the most beautiful place I've ever been. So. Oh, we have a bunch of ideas on new pieces of work that we want to do, and for me, I've gained new collaborators, like a whole new network. Yeah, people I can ask questions about stratospheric dynamics too that I didn't really have before. Working on conservation and or like, I don't know, mindful management of wild spaces. I think I get a lot of hope from interacting with young people at the university and seeing that there is a lot of energy still. And everyone is really worried about climate change, and I think with that much people power behind it, there is real possibility of political change. And I think that's the most important thing at this time. So. Thank you, and see you at the next ISSI Bern conference.